Most coaches or head coaches or managers, in my opinion, are correct. I was benched for 2 years by New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame member, baseball coach, Georges Parent, because he said I didn't present myself as a ball player. And at the time, I was just 17 years old. I wanted to play. He wouldn't play me. Now, of course, that was his right because I had no experience as a player, but just the attitude he had, and he didn't like the fact I knew more about baseball than he did in every shape or form. But that's not the point. In 1971, Henri Richard was benched by an English coach, Al McNeil, for a lack of play in the final series against Chicago. Al McNeil got death threats, and Henri Richard responded by calling him in French incompétent, which means worse than English. Basically, it's is an asshole who thinks you know more than a Frenchman, and he was incompetent. And Richard showed him by scoring the winning goal in Game 7 in that big 2-0 comeback. But the biggest asshole move, in my personal opinion, because Billy Martin was a great manager, he wasn't the best manager ever, but that Game 5 situation, the ALCS against Kansas City, was beyond the beyond. Now we know Reggie Jackson had a bad first 4 games in the series. He was having a hard time hitting. He was brought into the cleanup position for the Yankees on a request or an order by George Steinbrenner and took on, them making the playoffs in '77. And he did a great job. By the time the ALCS started, Reggie was a little bit burned out with all the drama, the straw who stirred the drink thing. But Billy Martin overthought it. He thought that Jackson couldn't hit Paul Splittorff. Now, Paul Splittorff was a good pitcher, but not a Jim Palmer, not a Steve Carlton, and he was playing the numbers. Now, in order for the Yankees to advance to their second straight World Series, they lost in 4 straight in '76 to the Reds. They would have to win again at the Royals' home park. They were behind 2 games to 1 in the series and won Game 4 in Kansas City. Now, to do that, they would have to beat their Game 1 nemesis Splittorff, who at the time was with your typical 15-win, 13-loss pitcher, and probably one of the better pitchers in Kansas City history, but he was beatable. Now, given that, Yankee manager Billy Martin decided to sit out Reggie on the grounds that he was 1 for 15 so far in the series, and in his own words, can't hit Splittorff. Now, the great Paul Blair started in right field and batted 8, and had some great at-bats during the contest, especially in the comeback in the ninth inning. But to go to your best player, not directly through Billy Martin, he had Fran Healy, I think Elson Howard, gave him the news. He couldn't even tell him to his face because Jackson would have probably have fucking killed him. And all the Yankee fans would have killed him. I know the speculation was this. It wasn't Kubek and Gargiola and all that. Didn't make a big deal about that. But for us in the real world, that was a huge deal. This would be like benching Guy Lafleur against Boston in the 77 series because he only got 2 points in a power play in the whole series. Yes, he was 1 for 15, but it's, a 5 game series. Sometimes things happen. Now, the Royals in the contest struck for a pair in the first with Hal McRae single and George Brett hit a seeing eye triple. Brett slid hard to Craig Nettles at third, and Nettles responded by kicking Brett, which started a bench clearing brawl. Of course, none of the players kicked out. Yankees starting pitcher Rod Guidry rushed in to defend Nettles. After order was restored, Al Collins drove in Brett with a groundout. Now the Yankees crept back in the third on a Thurman Bunsen RBI single, but the Royals matched that in the bottom half on a double by McRae, who was very hot in the series, and an RBI single by Collins, who had 1 out. Martin then pulled Guidry, who had gotten hurt in the first inning brawl. Some people say it was his pitching arm, yet to be determined. Now, former Montreal Expo Mike Torres and former future Red Sox Mike Torres, came in and pitched shutout ball over the next 5 and a third innings. Now, the Yankees began to claw back in the 8th. Right-hander Doug Bird relieved Splittorff after Randolph led off the inning with a single. Now, was that a mistake to take Splittorff out, knowing that Martin might put in Jackson if Splittorff is taken out? Well, here he goes. With 1 out, Pinella singled Randolph the third. With the unhittable Splittorff out of the game, Martin decided to send Jackson to the plate and hit for Cliff Johnson. Jackson put aside all frustrations over not starting the game and came through with a pinch hit RBI single to cut the Royals' lead to 3-2. Now, in the miniseries, the dramatized miniseries, I don't know how much is real, how much wasn't. The Bronx is burning. There's almost a whole episode talking about Reggie's response for getting benched. He was very rah-rah on the bench when he went in. He was ready to go. I don't think that was totally accurate. I saw a tape there that Reggie was basically hiding from the TV cameras for most of the game. Now, the Royals eventually mounted a threat in their half of the eighth. Torres walked both Amos Onis and Pete Lecoq with 2 outs, but relief ace Sparky Lyle came in and struck out the soon-to-be retired Cookie Rojas. This would be, again, his last major league game. Now, with apparently very little confidence in regular closer Mark Littell, who struggled in '77, he sent Game 3 stopper Dennis Leonard out to preserve the lead in the ninth. Shades of Steve Rogers later on. Leonard, unaccustomed to short relief, yielded a bloop single to Paul Blair, Jackson's replacement, and walked Roy White, pinch hitting for Bucky Dent, with no outs. Herzog, going with percentages, replaced Leonard with another normal starter, left-hander Larry Gura. The strategy backfired as Gura gave up a game-tying RBI single to Mickey Rivers, with White reaching third. Herzog then brought in Littell, who retired Willie Randolph in a deep drive to center, as White tagged and scored a go-ahead run. Munson was retired, but Pinella hit a grounder to third that Brett threw away at first, scoring Rivers with the final run. Now, Lyle then retired the Royals in the ninth, the final outs coming when Freddie Patek hit into a double play. As the Yankees celebrated, Patek sat in the dugout dejected for several minutes. Coincidentally, it was Patek's 33rd birthday that day. Tony Kubek, commentating for NBC, summed up the Yankees know how to win. Now, was this genius managing by Herzog? No. Was it genius managing by Billy Martin? No. But usually when teams need to win, they win. 3-2 lead in a ninth inning can be tough. Scoring 3 runs, and nobody expected what they called the bottom 9 of the lineup, because Blair, I think, was batting 8th. Mickey Rivers wasn't known for his RBI or clutch hitting. But the game itself, like I said, it was kind of... Kansas City Stadium was half dark, and we saw that in 1985 with the Blue Jays and the Royals and their famous 7-game series. It just seems a very, very ominous game. Like, it didn't seem like the brightness of Yankee Stadium or the brightness of Fenway. It was a very, very, deciding match. Now, get this. Reggie Jackson had won 5 straight titles with Oakland in the AL West. As soon as he left, Kansas City started getting stronger and won in 76 and 77. And, and they were a regular opponent against the Yankees for the rest of the decade. So it's interesting how it goes. Reggie Jackson, the biggest nemesis for the Royals, was Reggie Jackson, and Martin wouldn't play Reggie Jackson in the contest. So, yes, he made a comeback, but that was an awful risk to take. On the decision, I give it a B-. It did work in a certain way, but for the fans, and what Reggie did in the World Series, how Billy Martin almost fucked it up in Game 5, whereas like that umpire talked to Laura Weaver, he said all you know what to do is to fuck up World Series. Martin almost lost the World Series with that bad decision, and the year before, he made bad decisions as well against the Reds that cost him to be swept 4 games straight. Like, I'm a big Reggie Jackson fan, but ladies and gentlemen, like I said, you play your best players. If you don't produce, that's how it goes. Sometimes Wayne Gretzky is not called upon to shoot for Team Canada, and Mark Crawford is still paying for it because the famous shootout against the Czechs at the Olympics. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our latest 1970s MLB vintage podcast. If you like what you're doing here with our various takes on baseball history, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And like our good followers of the channel, John Walco and Ryan Thompson, we take requests. Again, all requests are highly considered and highly, highly appreciated. And if I can't do it, no one can. This is a historical channel. We're not here to make you change your mind about how the events occurred, only to show our side of the story. And just like Paul Harvey, that's the rest of the story. Thanks for listening. And as we like to say in the North Shore during baseball season, don't beat up your opponents. You might get thrown out. Because I know George Brett and Nettle should have been definitely thrown out of that game. Thanks for listening. Bye.